Welcome to the Secret Recipe Podcast. I'm your host, Mz.Skittlez. Hey guys, on another episode of the Secret Recipe, I am sitting here with Michael O'Donnell, the #1 sales guy in solar. And honestly, I believe one of my secret recipes in life is sales, because I've sold myself in every single thing that I've had to do. Like, I remember when my mom didn't want me to cheer, and I was like, she's like, oh, those skirts are too short. My mom was a pastor, so she's like,
she was selling you against it.
Yeah, she's like, oh, those skirts are too short. I came up with the whole campaign on how cheerleading would help my confidence and how, I would be more social. I would get better grades.
Right. Yeah.
And guess what? I became a cheerleader. So
my daughter is just as good a salesperson as you are, let me tell you.
So how did you get into it? Like, can you give me a little bit background on how you got to where you are now, being the #1 sales guy in solar?
It's funny. I think some people kind of have a knack, maybe a little bit born for it. Not everybody does. You're talking about you selling your mom. It reminds me of my daughter and her being like 2.5, 3 years old. She's in the back seat of the car. She's in a car seat. We're coming home from grandma's of the big whatever day that we're having over there. And she says, how about we go to Cold Stone and get mommy's favorite ice cream? And I thought, oh my God, this one's going to be the salesperson out of my 3 kids. That's the salesperson. And she is. She's the salesperson. She's the chip off the old block. So I think I'm one of those people that if you might have met me, in high school or college, you'd have said, you might want to consider. They told me 2 things. You might want to be a lawyer because, I'm pretty good at like winning arguments, or maybe sales. And I kind of looked into what lawyers did for a living. That didn't sound like fighting with people. I'm not a fighter with you. I'm a lover, not a fighter. I don't want to fight with people for a living. And so that was kind of the idea. I tell people that salespeople, great salespeople, have a little bit of that born, not just made. I think anyone can be good in sales. Yeah. There is a recipe for it. You can do the numbers, learn the skills, and become really good at it. But some people have that knack, right? I happen to be Irish, who they happen to say, the Irish are the people that can tell you to go to hell so that you're looking forward to the journey.
Wow, I've never heard that.
That little gift of gab, So I have a bit of that. And so that's obviously very helpful. Not everybody has that gift of gab. So obviously if you do, that's a good start.
Wow. So you say that sales can be taught.
Yes.
And you teach it currently.
Yes.
So someone that is not able to get a yes from any customer can be taught on how to do that? Because I've always felt like you are gifted with certain things, and then if you are not gifted in sales, then go do something else. I never have thought to find a person that is not gifted and doesn't even have the qualities to now become gifted.
I'm not going to tell you it doesn't help. And here's how you can tell if somebody's gifted in sales. It's you in that conversation with your mom about the cheerleading and why it's going to be so good. If you are an epic pain in the ass about getting your way, that's a really good start to being kind of a natural born salesperson. It's like you're in a group of people and everyone's trying to figure out what to do, and somehow the group ends up doing what you wanted to do. And a few of the people in the group are kind of mad at you. They're like, why do we always do what she wants to do? And you're like, I don't know what you're trying to do, but I'm trying to get people to want to do what I want to do. I don't even know why you're being quiet over there. Why are you not pitching? What's going on here? So if you're an epic pain in the ass about things kind of going your way, that's a good start.
Okay.
Because that's what's happening in sales is the customer wants to do this on a different day and you want it to happen today, and who's going to get their way? Right? And a great salesperson is going to get their way a huge percentage of the time, but not unless they know how to do it. So they need to be taught. Anybody can be taught. They don't have to have that necessarily that gift. I've known several people in my career who were very upset with me because I was in the same company they were. In their mind, they were providing much, much, much more value.
In their mind.
In their mind. And probably you could make a terrific argument. Great ops people who make the delivery for the customer happen, project managers, operations managers, people on the side of the world that actually make what we promise come true.
Yes.
There's a lot of value there.
Lots.
But they don't get paid the same.
Absolutely.
And they're not happy about that. and they're not a big fan of yours for making 5 times what they make when they feel like they work a lot harder than you. I've had that conversation with some people that did. I said, you're a competent person. You would be good at anything you did. You may not have that special, oh, wait, everyone tells me I should be a sales guy.
Yeah.
But you're just good at anything you put your mind to. Why don't you put your mind to something that makes 5 times more money? And I've had them take my advice and do very, very well.
Wow.
Very, very well.
Wow.
Learned how to do it.
I love that idea.
Learn the craft.
I love that idea because I think even in my company, there are times where we have salespeople and people are looking at commissions and this and that. And they're like, but I did this and I did that and I've been with you longer. And I'm like, it's just the nature of sales. Like we would not have that customer if it wasn't for that particular. You wouldn't be able to ship any product. You wouldn't be able to create a system to ship product if you didn't have the sales guy knocking on the doors or picking up the phone and getting no.
Right. And that either happened through great marketing, and that's something you really focus on.
Yes.
Or it happened by a salesperson, saying, how about it?
Yes.
And why not? And let's do it. And can I get that information and get this shipped for you, right? That or they saw great marketing and clicked on it, right?
Yeah.
So those are 2 different ways to get somebody to do that. I wish I was better at marketing because you can sell a lot more people with great marketing.
I was just going to say that. I was like, how important is marketing to sales? Like, have you ever... was your first experience selling products solar?
Yep. No.
Okay.
My first experience selling product was my buddies and I, who were the kings of the back alleys, right? We're talking 4th grade, and we would never walk on the street. We always walked the alleys. And one day we come upon like 4 cases that somebody had thrown away of what we deemed to be miracle cleaner, right? Like we don't know what it really did, but it looked like cleaner and it smelled like Pine Sol. And so I'm like, I know, let's go and sell this stuff. We could turn this into money. We could turn these 4 cases of stuff into money. And what do? We went and knocked on doors in the neighborhood, and we're like doing an infomercial at the door. It slices, it dices, but wait, now how much would you pay, right? We're doing this little infomercial there at someone's door. They're like, just because this was entertaining, how much are these? $1 a bottle? And so in a few hours we were sold out, right? And we had $27. And then we were out of inventory and that business was over, right? We could not find more of that stuff. So that was my first, one of my first experiences with really doing that. And I think probably the experience everybody has, right? You join the cheer, you join the football team, you join the baseball team. And what do? They give you boxes of cookies or chances or, chocolate bars. And they're like, hey, we need to raise money. Go implore all of your relatives to buy this stuff. That's your first sales experience, probably for everybody. If that was something that made your skin want to crawl, maybe sales isn't for you. Yeah. If that kind of got you a little excited and you're like, oh, you mean the guy who gets the most chocolate bars sold, he's going to get a skateboard or whatever that thing. If you were like going, I want the skateboard, I'm going to do it, maybe you kind of have that thinking.
Yes. I remember selling candy for my school. And I actually have a journal. I might post it in this episode if I can find the page. But it literally said, I made $47 for my school today. I wish I made it for myself.
Right.
I wanted to go on a field trip, and I was questioning, do I turn in the $47? Like my mom says, I can't go on the field trip because we don't have the money, but we do have the money. It's just going to the school.
There it is.
So
I bet you more than one Girl Scout has had that thought. Like, holy cow, I just sold $1,000 worth of Girl Scout cookies, and yay, I'm getting the ribbon, but it'd be nice to have a cut of that $1,000.
Absolutely. So when it comes to marketing, do you believe that good marketing helps sales? And if so, have you had a product that had bad marketing? Right. How hard did you have to sell? Or how creative do you have to be?
So the biggest sales meme of all is Alec Baldwin in the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, and Al Pacino is in his little class that he's giving, and he says, we're going to have a sales contest. First prize, brand new Cadillac. Second prize, set of steak knives. And I was like, oh my God, why do you go from Cadillac to steak knives? Well, what no one knows is every one of those guys has 30 boxes of steak knives in the trunk of their car. That's what they promise is the free gift, if you'll let me come over. But third prize is hit the bricks, you're fired, because the good leads are coming out. The Glengarry Glen Ross leads are coming. Everyone's looking. He's got this little gold bow, and they're like, oh, I want those leads. Well, where did the leads come from? These guys are in the rain, knocking doors, working on old leads, crummy leads. They're not making any sales. What they need are the Glenn Ross leads.
Wow.
Where do those come from? They come from marketing. Salespeople have to have someone to talk to. How do they get that person? Marketing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's where the good leads come from.
But have you ever had a product that you had to sell that didn't have good marketing? And how creative did you have to be on your pitch?
And I would say that's one of the reasons I'm the #1 solar sales guy, because there's not a lot of good marketing.
I was going to say
solar.
that.
Yeah.
Like, me and you had a conversation before the cameras came on, and you were like, you save hundreds of thousands of dollars by adding solar panels to your house. And I'm like, well, why are we paying? Like, I know for my building, my one property, and I have multiple, but one property I have, I was telling my team last year, I said, how many customers are coming in every day between 9 and 12? And they're like, I mean, maybe 2 or 3. I'm like, well, why don't we put a sign on the door that says like, buzz in and we'll turn the lights on? Because this power bill does not justify.
Why is the air conditioning going when no one's home? What's going on here?
The power bill does not justify the amount of customers that are coming in. And I'm sure people that are watching, small businesses, would love to know more about solar, but where is the marketing?
Most people are going to spend between $100,000 and $250,000 on their energy bills over the next 20 years, and they have no idea because they haven't added it up. They also don't realize that inflation isn't fake, inflation is real. And they also don't realize that with the normal inflation, we're talking about the kind that we've had since Ronald Reagan was president, 3%, 4%, 3%, 4%, right? The price of everything doubles every 15 or 20 years.
Wow.
So someone's thinking, I'm paying about $200 a month, $300 a month. I'm paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a year for this electric bill. What they don't realize is, their parents used to pay $68 a month, right? And now by the time their kids are getting ready to go to college, that same bill is going to be $600 a month, $800 a month. And so that's part of what we're doing, is helping people understand what is the cost of this thing called energy that we're paying the electric company for, and why the hell are we spending all this money on something we get nothing for? Why don't we spend that exact same money, but instead of renting the power equipment from the local electric company, why don't we just buy our own power equipment? For $250,000, I bet you could buy some pretty cool stuff with $250,000.
Yeah.
And so that's the big idea of solar, is stop taking your monthly expense, which is a homeowner's second biggest expense. Your biggest expense is housing.
Yes.
And as a family, as a person heading up a family, you have to decide, we have to live somewhere. We don't have a choice.
Yep.
Got to live.
Yep.
So we have to have a housing budget. How do we spend that housing budget? Well, we'll just rent a place and we'll spend, $2,000, $3,000 a month on our housing budget. So 10 years from now, you're still in this home. You've been giving the landlord $20,000, $30,000 a year, and how much of that money do you have to take with you when you leave? Oh, and by the way, is the rent still $2,000 10 years from now?
No, because I was gonna say.
Yeah.
You said 20,000. I know people live in a 1-bedroom apartment
that are paying that now. I know.
Now, yeah.
My daughter just got married. She's looking for a house, and oh my gosh, I'm like, for $2,000, you don't get anything.
Yeah.
So my mentality is still, stuck thinking $2,000 is a big mortgage payment. My first mortgage payment was $700. So that same idea of, okay, you're going to spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a year. Yeah. What are you going to get in return for that money? If you rent the place, you're going to get nothing. If you decide to own that house, well, a couple things happen. One, every single time that you make that, say, let's call it 3, you make a $3,000 mortgage payment, well, that brings the balance down. The amount of that balance coming down from what you paid, that's called equity. And over the course of that 20 years, you paid that balance way down. Maybe you set it up on a 20-year mortgage, or maybe you made 13 payments a year instead of 12.
Yep.
If you did that, you're going to pay that house off like 7 to 10 years faster.
Yep.
So in 20 years, you're paid off. Well, then in that 20 years, is the price the same as you paid for it? No, it's a lot more. Between what you paid for it and what it's going for now, that difference is called appreciation.
Yes.
The difference between the appreciation and the equity, that's called your net worth. That's where 80% of the homeowners in America get their net worth, is from the difference between what they paid for the house and what they owe on the house 10, 20, 30 years later. Wow. That's a majority of Americans' net worth. Well, that same thing applies to owning a power plant. If you take the $250,000 and spend it on electricity at the end of that period of time, you not only don't have anything to show for it, the price has doubled, tripled, quadrupled, and you're like, we can't afford to cool down 2,500 square feet anymore. We got to like move to Sun City.
Yeah.
We got to get into that 800 square foot condo so we can afford to cool the place down. So if you'd have taken that money and instead just purchased a power plant with that same money, a couple things would happen. One, just like your mortgage payment, if you own a house, 10 years from now is exactly the same as it is now, right? And 20 years, same thing. And in 30 years, same thing. And if it was a 30-year mortgage, it's now paid off. Wow. You paid it off in that period of time. You do the same thing with a solar system, a power plant. You put it on your house, and every month, instead of giving that money to the power company, instead you put it towards your solar equipment loan, just like a mortgage. It's basically a mortgage on a power plant. And that payment stays exactly the same. So instead of doubling or tripling in the next 10 years, it's the same. And then 20 years later, you're paid off.
Wow.
You're here at zero. Would you rather be here or here 20 years from now? That's what people who are looking at a solar system, do I want to end up here or here? Simple question.
Wow. So what is the difference in payment from, and this is supposed to be about sales, but I'm so intrigued. Sell you solar. At this point, I did a little quote
for your house. We're going to sign you up for solar today.
I am so intrigued by it. So the payment on solar, the solar loan, essentially, is how much lower than a gas bill?
So I know exactly the answer to that question.
Okay.
And you're ready for it?
Yes.
I've never seen your home, have I?
No.
Do I know how many square feet it is? No. I'm about to tell you how much solar costs compared to what you're paying the electric company.
Okay.
This is like a magic trick.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
It costs less.
God.
It's less.
Much less.
Quite a bit less.
Wow.
It's like $250,000 less over 20 years. In the near term, it's just going to be less. I don't know if that's $10 a month or $50 a month or $100. That's going to depend on your roof and how well it faces the sun and how much power you use and what your local utility pays versus what the solar is going to cost you for the same power.
Wow.
But I know one thing, it's less. And so when you see solar on the internet, you're going to think that solar, it can't be free. One of the biggest problems we have is our marketing. The marketing all says zero cost, zero free. And bro, I'm not stupid. I don't think there's any chance this thing is free. You're not going to put a $50,000 thing on my house and call it free. There's no way it's free. What they're saying in all that marketing is there's no cost. Well, how do you justify that? Well, here's the thing. The government is the one pushing solar. Why? Because we got a huge problem. The huge problem is that, a couple hundred years ago, we had too many people to just go around gathering firewood. There was too many people to find enough firewood every day to cook and heat and do all this stuff. So they said, well, we got to find something else to burn. And they dug down into the ground and they found coal. We started burning coal. Okay, we got this coal. And of course, you've seen London and the Mary Poppins days and everything's just whoa.
Yes.
So now we're burning coal, right? Well, then we can't burn it at the house. We got to build it at a power plant so the soot isn't everywhere. So then we started going we need more power than just rocks. So then we started to pump up this sludge out of the ground. Needed to put it in cars and steamships and all this kind of stuff. And that's oil. And we're getting this sludge out of the ground. We're lighting it on fire, right? So now we're lighting all this stuff on fire for 100 years. All of a sudden we got another problem. We now I don't know if you know this, but 2 months ago we crossed the transom of 8 billion people that are on this spherical planet.
Yes.
How long can 8 billion people be sucking garbage out of the middle of the thing to light on fire? Talk about unsustainable. Not to mention, when you light, 8 billion people are lighting stuff on fire, it causes other problems. Right? We're talking pollution, and it's not pleasant. So
the climate.
So we have this huge problem. So the government is the one pushing solar because we need to go from all these emissions. We hear about, climate. I don't even know if it's climate. Let's just call it pollution. This is every single home that has electric or gas or oil, they're literally putting tens of thousands of pounds of pollution, emissions into the air. And the government is saying, okay, that's over. It's over. It's over because it's causing big problems like climate and, polar bears don't have a place to live and, it's just, this is terrible. This is essentially an existential threat. We can't screw this thing up. We only got one of these planets. unless Elon Musk, gets that Mars thing working.
Come on, Elon.
This
Come
is
on.
the only one we got. So we have to not screw this thing up. So the government is the one pushing it. The way they're doing that is with incentives. The government, the reason it says no cost is because the government makes the down payment. So Biden just got a big bill cost. It's called the Inflation Reduction Act. There's $400 billion. That was like the budget for the United States in the 80s or something, right? $400 billion to spend on solar and other green energy projects for people's homes and their businesses. $400 billion.
Wow.
And that comes to you as a down payment. The government gives you the down payment. So they give you 30% of the whole cost of the system.
Wow.
And so that comes up front. So your down payment is zero. Well, that's no cost. Then every month you're going to have a kind of a car payment, $160 to $220, $270. Well, are you getting that money out of your budget, out of your bank account? No, you're going to steal it.
This episode and conversation is powered by The Bakery Cowork, the largest female-focused co-working space for aspiring women.
Right now, every single month, that money is going put into
my audience to steal.
You're going to steal it. We're going to kind of swipe it.
Okay.
Right now, it's getting into an envelope and it's being sent to the utility company,
Yes.
to the electric company. We're going to swipe it, take it out of that envelope, and put it into this envelope that says power plant ownership, and we're going to pay off this power plant with the money we were already spending, except it's less. So there's some money left over. You got an extra $50 or something like that. What are you going to do with that money? You think you can figure out something to do with $50 a month?
Yeah.
It's not going to change your life. But that $50 is going to grow because if you stay with the utility company, that cost is going to double and triple over the next 10 and 20 years. Why? Because the government said it's over. We are done burning garbage, burning stuff that's dead to create energy for our cars and homes. It's over, done. We got to do something else. So the government's saying, here's the next thing, you better take it.
Wow.
If you don't take it, you're in big trouble. Big trouble.
Wow. So for the person that, first of all, thank you. I feel so enlightened about a subject matter that has always been like, oh my God, no, this is for, it's like, no, I'm not ready for that. But now I'm like, whoa, this is why we have electric cars, and this is why, I love my electric car, but this is why we're on this wave, and this is why climate, it just woke up so many things, and I hope that my audience is also listening and understands that exactly what you just said. But I said all of that to say, as much as information as I did not have in regards to the subject matter, everyone else is the same way. How do you sell a product in which people are confused by, or mysterious? It's mysterious, or it's like, oh, I don't need this, or oh, I'm so conditioned to believe that this is right.
Remember that show, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire?
Yes.
And they'd start out asking you a question, who's the first president of the United States? You go like, George Washington. Duh. And the next question was, how many ounces in a pound? You're like, duh. And then you get the guy that would get that question, he would look like, oh, I don't know it. And you'd be like, what an idiot. And Philbus Reben was the first guy. He would go, guys, it's only easy if you know the answer. Okay? So if you don't know the answer, it's mysterious.
Yeah.
But if somebody taught you, George Washington, he was the first president, you'd be like, oh, I know that one. Now you raise your hand, push the button. So if you sit down with a solar consultant and he has an engineer look at your roof, do the numbers, and say, well, you're spending $4,000 a year on electricity. That means you're buying 20,000 of these units called kilowatt hours. Turns out we can put enough panels on your roof. They fit to make that exact same amount of power, and your $4,000 a year for power is going to be, next to nothing. You're going to have to pay the power company $10 or $20 to have a meter and have a connection. So, and a lot of things about solar people don't know that really kind of go, how's that going to work? There's a really downside to solar. And I'm not afraid to tell you what it is. Are you ready? I'm going to tell you this is it. This is the worst thing. Solar sucks at night. Doesn't do a thing. Sits there. You got thousands of dollars worth of it. Doesn't do anything. It sits there all night. And people go, yeah, right. Solar, no sun, no solar energy. So this obviously, I don't want two bills. And so they don't understand how it works. So that's part of my job, is to sit down and say, you're right. Solar doesn't work at night. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to buy power from the utility at night. But during the day when the sun comes up, we're going to put enough panels on the house so that you make too much power. And that extra power is going to get metered into the grid to the local utility. They're forced to buy that from you. Wow. They sell it to your neighbors. Now your neighbors are using solar energy that you didn't know, right? Your neighbors are using green energy. Why? Because you're a local power plant on the street The utility's required to take the extra
I'm
power,
blown
sell it
away.
to your neighbors, and then you basically meter that power into the grid, and then at night you just meter it back.
Okay, you can't come on my show and sell me solar. This is why he's literally the number. Back to sales.
Okay,
because
sales.
he's literally
Sales. We were talking just about
This
the
is
word no.
this is mind. Okay, so what is the number one thing that you believe every salesperson should know to get a customer from a no to a yes?
So the biggest thing you need to know is that the word no is something we instinctively try to avoid, right? So we go through lots of calisthenics and acrobatics to try to avoid the word no. It's a salesperson's job to collect them. It's why they get paid what they get paid. It's why they get paid the amount they get paid. The reason he makes more money than anyone in the company, including the CEO. The best salesperson in a great company makes more money than the CEO, and the CEO is really glad to have him. Wow. And he's glad he makes more money than the CEO. And that's because, like you said, nobody else would have a job, including him, if somebody wasn't writing these orders and saying, we've got that business. But what that salesperson's real job is to knock on a door and say, hey, I'm in the solar business, I'm in the beauty business, I'm in the whatever business, it's my job to knock on a door and go, you guys aren't using my company, we got a great product, any chance you would take a look, can I get you a proposal? And what's the answer to that most of the time?
No.
No.
I'm okay.
No, thank you. Why does it feel like when someone says no, thank you, that somebody says, no, get off my lawn? And I likened it, you and I were talking, let's be like going to a dance, right? And you ask 30 people to dance. If 27 of those people said, no, you're ugly, would you even get halfway to 30 people if you heard 15 no's you're ugly?
No.
And by the way, did anybody say no, you're ugly? No, they said, no, thank you. Would you like to dance? No, thank you. I don't dance. I'm not feeling like it. I'm with somebody. I'm leaving in a minute. They said, no, thank you to your offer. Would you like to dance? But out of the 30, 2 or 3 of them would have said, you know what? Yeah, I literally am doing nothing else. Sure, let's have a dance. And out of those 3 people, one of them turned out to be someone you kind of liked. They kind of liked you, and you kind of went out and had coffee afterwards. It turned into the love of your life for the next 3 weeks. 3 weeks later, you'd be looking back going, you know what? That dance thing was pretty good. I think I'm going to go to another dance. Why? Because you were looking at the result of getting past the 27 no's and getting to the 3 that said, I'll consider it, and the one that said, I like this deal. I'll buy. I'm in. Right? So if you can understand that that's what sales is doing, and that this word here, the word no, see all the sunshine coming through the word no? All the power of sales comes through the word no. That's why the money's weird. That's why there's so few people that say they think they can do it.
Wow.
It turns people's stomach to think about going and knocking on doors going, hey, would you give my company a try? Well, what's so bad about that?
Yeah.
Hey, would you give my company a try? Can we get you a free proposal? Like, that's not a bad thing. However, to most people, it's an anathema to their existence, unless they get it. And when they get it and they go, oh, I talked to 30, 20 of them say, no, thank you. No one said, no, you're ugly. And 3 of them go, I'll take a look, and 1 buys. And because of that, I make it. In the solar business, the numbers are truly weird.
Okay.
It's an obscene amount of money.
I've heard.
And it's because here's what's happening. We're knocking on a door going, hey, you're going to spend $250,000 over the next 20 years. Could I get you to look at my company's product? And in a 2 or 3 hour conversation, we capture 30 years worth of revenue.
Wow.
To another business in 1 2-hour conversation. And we're selling them a $30,000, $50,000, $100,000 thing. And we had a total of 2 hours in that.
Wow.
Compare that to a real estate transaction where you might spend 24 hours with somebody to make a similar amount of money.
Wow.
Well, if I'm not spending that time with you, I'm going to sell another one and another one and another. And that's, I'm selling about 200-300 of these every single year. That's literally a 7-figure income. And that's what the real thing, you talked about the recipe. It's literally the recipe to a 7-figure income. There's such a lucrative opportunity in solar because this is such a big question and a big opportunity and a big ticket price for the customer. I mean, the only bigger ticket that the customer can buy is the house. And you can't sell 3 houses a day. I can sell 3 solar systems in a day.
Wow.
And so the numbers are truly amazing. And so there's a lot of people out there in gigs that are not gigging too well, you know, with higher interest rates.
Especially with this whole
Oh my goodness.
recession talk.
Oh, recession and high interest rates. So mortgages and insurance and real estate, those things are Some people are really hurting right now. So this is an amazing opportunity to take those skills and port them over into a very, very lucrative opportunity. But you're going to have to endure. Yeah. And I suggest don't just endure, monetize. Yeah. So what I teach people to do is to monetize the word no. So if I talk to 30 people and 27 of them say no thank you, and 3 of them say I'll look, and 1 buys, and I make $5,000, if I divide that by the 30 people, I made hundreds of dollars for every person that
everyone said no.
Right.
That is such a good mindset. I have to stop because oh my God, that is amazing. Yeah. You guys, listen to what he said. He said, we are so stuck on getting told no that we are missing out on the hundreds of $1,000s that are in the yes. But if you just say that every no, say I get, a $10,000 yes, it took me $500. I got paid a no, $500, another no, $500. But a lot of times we equate no with $0 yeah. instead of it being like, oh, I got told no. And then that pushed me until I got told yes. Right. And like, I think so many people don't, to me, that was like what people need to hear, especially small businesses and entrepreneurs. We need to hear that. You spoke about the dance. You spoke about finding that one lady that you did.
I like to go to dances.
Yes.
It's scary to ask somebody.
For sure.
What are you going to lose? What's really at stake here? Somebody saying no thank you?
Yes.
Let's grow up and get over that.
So do you believe that you've been married for a very long time?
36 years.
36 years.
You.
Oh, she was the one that said yes at the dance.
Yes, I had a few no's.
Oh, but it was all worth it 36 years later. Do you believe?
She said no once or twice as well. Sometimes it's persistence and follow-up. You never know. There's different skills.
Absolutely. Do you believe that you still have to sell yourself in the relationship? Like 30 years of marriage, as you continue to evolve and change, I'm sure you're not the same sales guy that you were day one that you are in year, when you started out in sales and was coming home, like the Pursuit of Happiness movie where he was like, no sales, no sales, no sales, no sales. And in a moment, she's like, okay, are you going to find something else? To now being the #1 sales guy, how did you have to continue to constantly sell yourself in the relationship?
Well, Napoleon Hill really talks about something called a chief main objective. And if you're the only one in this relationship that is on board with this chief main objective, and you find yourself where I am right now, solar's a gold rush, right? We got 30 million homes to sell solar. There's 65 million total homes. There's only 3 million that have solar. We got to get half of those solar by the end of the decade. That's 30 million homes. We have to sell 10 times as much solar in the next 7 years as we did in the last 7 years just to meet the goals in the Paris Climate Accord, which the president just signed us up for. So we have to do that. And so that is the definition of a gold rush, right? That's the ticket size on all of these and the lucrativeness of it. If you find yourself in a gold rush, the appropriate response is going to be a life that looks a little bit out of balance. Like if you were on an Easter egg hunt and all of a sudden you get invited, that's nice, a candy, and then you get another candy, and then the third Easter egg had like $5,000, and you'd be like, did I just win the grand prize? And you pick up one, and there's a jelly bean, another one, and a chocolate thing, and the next third one has 5,000. You're like, oh my God. And you see thousands of Easter eggs, and you realize every third one has 5. How soon would you be needing a break?
Oh, never.
How soon? So you'd be a little
I'm going to gather as many eggs.
Yeah, until they, cleared out the field or they were all gone. Right? You would be going. So that's what the appropriate response to a gold rush is. But if the people in your life, your wife and your kids and the other, your partners and things, if they're not coming along with you, if they're not as vested, if they're not as understanding of why things are a little bit out of balance, you're going to leave them behind.
Wow.
And you got to remember to take those people with you and take your partner with you and take your spouse with you so that they're vested, they understand it, they get that chief main objective, right? And so Marcia and I, every single day, we read my Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. We built this thing together. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we, spending this kind of time and energy? And she's a part of the business and the work and all that stuff. So I think if I had done what I needed to write this book and she wasn't coming along with me, I mean, I would, Andy Elliott's one of my favorite sales coaching guys, and we do some work together. His wife, and I can't think of her first name here at the moment, but she gave a conversation. She said, if you're so busy that your family learns to live without you, the next step is they will be living without you.
Yes.
And if that's important to you, then you need to find a way to bring them with you. And so there's got to be some balance, but how do you live out of balance and address an opportunity like this? I think that's the key.
Wow. Is that the secret recipe? What is your secret recipe?
To what?
To success.
To success?
Because I feel like you've been successful in many areas. Not only are you the #1 sales guy, marriage is work.
Yeah.
You've been 36 years married, beautiful children, you're parenting, like that's success to me. And most people can only dream of having this life and having all of these things perfectly mapped out. What is the secret recipe?
So I've been a salesman for a long time, and I will tell you, and I love that you use the word recipe. What's the recipe, right? This is the recipe to a 7-figure income. I've been very successful in the solar industry, but I had decades of success that were extremely mediocre. I saw them as being successful, but in reality, I was literally doing maybe just a fraction of what I was capable of, and I was calling it good enough. At my core, I'm a lazy, undisciplined guy, and I was not producing results that somebody would have said, you should like write a book, right? Nobody said that to me. And then I found this opportunity, and I said, how do I get myself to work at a level where I'm really taking advantage and making the most of this opportunity? How can I create generational wealth? And that's when I started really looking for the solutions to that. And I found some real breakthroughs. One of them was reading Think and Grow Rich, treating it like an actual textbook, like taking it like a course. I've been a student of his for quite some time now, of Napoleon Hill. He's got a lot of writing on that. He didn't make that stuff up. He went out and talked to and was given that assignment to find this out by Carnegie, the steel magnate. He said, I'm a billionaire, basically.
Wow.
If you'll take this assignment on, I'll sort of sponsor this 25-year research project to go talk to all of the, essentially what would be billionaires, the Fords and the Edisons and all those guys. And he came up with those answers, how to do this. So the recipe really is having what he calls a chief main objective. And then here's the other part of it. I found two things that were breakthroughs. One was substituting the idea that I'm trying to not get evicted.
Yes.
I'm trying to pay my bills. I'm trying to not get the credit cards shut off, right? That's what most people are chained to a steering wheel at 7 o'clock in the morning with a 45-minute commute, and they've got to do their time and leave. They're trying to pay those credit card bills, not get evicted. If you can substitute that in with, no, I'm really trying to make, a high 6-figure income, a 7-figure income. I'm trying to have an 8-figure net worth in a reasonable short period of time. And I've got a 9-figure mindset. And in my book, I talk about this 9-figure mindset. We were on a panel yesterday talking to some people that have 9-figure net worth.
Yeah,
real
absolutely.
Guys. We were there with folks that were billionaires.
Yep.
And that's a real outcome for them. Can that be a real outcome for you? And I believe it can be.
Yes.
I believe it can be. I believe that's a mindset. So to have that mindset, you're going to work differently if you think you're trying to make 7 figures, have an 8-figure net worth that leads to eventually a 9-figure outcome, a legacy, generational wealth. You're going to work differently. But how do I, as Chris Gardner was talking about yesterday, right? He's the author of Pursuit of Happiness.
Yes.
He wrote the screenplay for the movie that Will Smith was in. He talked about that pursuit, man. It's that grind, man. And people want the success. They want that Instagram moment. They want the Lambo flex. But they don't want to do the grind.
No.
They don't want to do the grind. How do you get from 0 to 1? And I find that's really the big problem for salespeople. They have this opportunity, and especially in solar sales, you can work a little and make a lot.
Yeah.
And so if you're happy making $10,000, $20,000 a month, you're making more money than you ever have, but you're just not taking advantage of this opportunity. So how do you go from, be hungry, have that generational wealth mindset, but then how do you get yourself into that grind every single day? For me, the biggest problem is getting from 0 to 1. Getting from 0 to 1. You asked me about the recipe for success. The recipe for success in my life, which is what the title of this was, is no matter what, In addition to those guys that showed me how to sell solar back in the 80s, there was another group of guys that told me, if you want to not have a life that ends in disaster, if you happen to have a problem with alcohol and drugs, which I did, I was arrested 3 times by the time I was 19 years old. I wouldn't be anywhere if I hadn't solved that problem. And I was able to solve that problem by finding mentors that knew how to do it. And they told me very simply how to do it. And it's, if you have a problem with drinking, the answer is don't drink today and go to a meeting today. Do that 90 days in a row and do it no matter what. And that's really where that idea came from. Motivation doesn't work. You can go hear Tony Robbins, you can go hear any of these great motivational speakers, and you'll be fired up for a day or 2 or 3 or 5.
And when life hits,
man, when the grind is ready to grind, and you're like, holy cow, how do I get from 0 to 1? Here's what motivation, inspiration can do. And if you find this conversation a little bit of motivation, a little bit of inspiration, like maybe I could have a 7-figure, and maybe I could have an 8-figure net worth. Maybe I could be one of those guys that has a rock star, movie star, $100 million net worth lifestyle. Maybe I could do that. If you find that inspirational, what you need to do is seize. Seize on that idea, seize on that inspiration, and with that, make a no matter what commitment. Being married 36 years, you want to know the secret?
Please.
Don't get divorced and don't die no matter what. I've been to the brink. I've been to the edge. I've stood in front of a judge who goes, are you guys here to get divorced or what? And well, like, no, let's not get divorced. No matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what, don't get divorced. Don't die, and you'll end up married 36 years. Now, hopefully there's some better parts to that story, and there are. It's the greatest story I could possibly tell you. But the same thing, if I was to spend my life in prison or dead because of an alcohol and drug problem, and I had to gather that inspiration. What did that inspiration come from? Getting my ass kicked by alcohol and drugs. That's where the motivation, inspiration comes from. But that will go away. And you have to use that motivation, use that inspiration to not get my ass kicked, to not have to go to jail one more time, not end up in prison or whatever the deal is that your destructive nature will take you. There's a chapter in this book called Kill What's Killing You. And I had to make a sacred, inspired, no matter what commitment. Even though I'm 19 years old, and a year from now I'm going to be 20 and 21, and I'm going to feel like I could have one drink. But I'm going to make a no matter what commitment. And it wasn't until I transported that at 50 years old into my business life to go from 0 to 1 every day on the action side. That's what we talked to Chris about. How do you get these kids to get into action?
Absolutely. I think so many people think of winning. They just look at the trophy. They look at that moment. They're like, oh my God, I'm about to win. But they don't show up to practice. I realized that as, growing a business, I have so many people that want to be around me because of what it looks like. But when it's time to grind, when it's time to show up to practice, to get those replays into, so I can tell you exactly what to do and how to do it, they don't want to do that. And I feel like one of the secret recipes for me is that I continue to show up to practice. When it didn't look good, when I didn't have the nice shoes, when I couldn't afford the uniform, when I didn't know how I was going to get in the room, when I didn't know what my team looked like, when I sometimes didn't even believe in the team.
When you didn't feel like it, you didn't have to go.
Oh, no. Even when I felt like it, when I didn't feel like it, I showed up to practice. And ultimately, that is how winners end up winning the game.
So this unbelievably brutal thing that people, when you say, you can make $1 million, you just have to go door to door. You'd be like, man, I'm not doing that. Like, I would rather pick up dog poop with my bare hands than go knocking on doors. No one will pay you $1 million to do that, by the way, right? But they will the other. So why won't people, just be able to do that? And it's because they are a victim to inertia. And if you can find a way to go from victim of inertia to the beneficiary of momentum, and that's something that happens every day. The motivation to do what you have to do, your grind, it dies every night, and you got to wake it up every day. And so one of the real secrets for me is that I received this inspiration from Tim Grover's. Tim Grover was the mindset and physical coach, physical therapy coach, physical training coach for Michael Jordan.
Okay.
And I got a chance to speak to him and talk to him, and he said, I thought Michael Jordan was a guy who just didn't have a choke mechanism like all the other normal humans. And he said, no, that wasn't it. He choked as well as anybody in college.
Wow.
It was his grinding it out every day in the gym every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. And that shot that he hit at the 3 seconds to go that went in at the buzzer to win the championship, he'd made that shot 5,000 times in the last 90 days. He wasn't wondering if it was going in. He just could do that when he could do that at will. And so I started a daily phone call. That was really the beginning of the coaching. So the MOD Academy is coaching and training for how to do this for salespeople to generate a 7-figure income. And part of it is a call that happens every day.
Wow.
Not on the days you feel like it. Every day, Monday through Friday, you're on a call. We also have a Sunday version of it, so it's 6 days a week. Every single day being in a position to go from 0 to 1.
And that's the part that
you got to go from 0 to 1 every day.
That is the part that most people forget about, and that is the part that most people think, oh, it doesn't look like that on Instagram. They don't post the days that they don't want to get up. Their Instagram, it's like, don't worry, we have it on auto post.
I'm in my pajamas at 2 p.m.
You guys, I absolutely loved this episode. Michael, thank you so much. You guys, this episode was sponsored by No Matter What. Go grab this book. Where can they grab it?
They can get it at Amazon.com.
Okay.
And it's now on paperback, and it's a best-selling book. And they can also follow me on social media at Michael O'Donnell Sales. A lot of what we're talking about is stuff that I'm talking about all the time. And if you get on Michael O'Donnell Sales on Instagram, you'll follow that. You can also get the book or the training, the MOD Sales Academy.
Okay.
And that's at modsalesacademy.com.
Yes, and remember, this is not a book about solar, even though he got our whole lives together when it comes to solar. This is a book about sales. So if you want to learn sales, if you want to learn how to sell yourself, your business, your spouse, because sometimes, but this is the book for it. Thank you. Yes, how about we go on a trip to Bali? That is always
let's go on your
selling
favorite
my
island. Yeah, let's do that. How easy is that to sell?
Absolutely. Make sure you get this book no matter what. Thank you, Michael, so much. This has been so amazing. And until next time, The Secret Recipe.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.